Good morning. And this morning, it's going to be quite the show. We are going to look at the homosexual agenda. A lot of people have asked me recently, well, how do you know if they have an agenda? How do we prove that there's an agenda? Well, just look it up. You don't need me to tell you that there's an agenda. You don't need me to tell you how we know there's an agenda. Look it up. You can actually Google it. The Overhauling of Straight America is by Marshall Kirk and Erastes Pill. This is a must-read article. It is originally published in November of 1987. It is the blueprint for the now global homosexual propaganda campaign. The agenda to replace marriage-based society with a culture of sexual anarchy. See, there was a book written in 1999 that gives the basis of this outline, or is based on this outline. And the book is titled "After the Ball." After the Ball has become what the homosexual movement calls their Bible. It's the Bible of the homosexual propagandists. See, only this article states the homosexual goals and tactics with such alarming frankness. Pay attention this morning. We've went over these things several times, and I'm going to continue to go over them several more times until people actually see where it started, that there's an agenda, that the agenda has been completed, and that it's time that we start waking up. Following are relevant excerpts from the article. The complete article is readily available on the internet. The first order of business is desensitization of the American public concerning gays and gay rights. I'm going to use the word gay because it's in here so many times that I don't want to throw anybody off by replacing it with homosexual. But we all know that I wasn't gay when I was a homosexual. I definitely wasn't gay when I was a transgender. I'm gay now because I have the source of all joy and happiness that dwells within me, and that is the Holy Spirit of our one true living God. So I am now gay. I'm now happy. But we're going to use the word as it's written, just not to throw anybody off of where we're at. So the first order of business is desensitization of the American public concerning gays and gay rights. To desensitize the public is to help it view homosexuality with indifference instead of with keen emotion. Ideally, we would have straights register differences in sexual preference the way they register different tastes for ice creams or sports games. She likes strawberry, I like vanilla, he follows baseball, I follow football, no big deal, right? At least in the beginning, we, the homosexual movement, are seeking public desensitization and nothing more. We do not need and cannot expect a full appreciation or understanding of homosexuality from the average American. You can forget about trying to persuade the masses that homosexuality is a good thing. But if only you can get them to think that it is just another thing, with a shrug of their shoulders, then your battle for legal and social rights is virtually won. Before homosexuality became the in thing, it did first become just another thing. And to get to shoulder shrug stage or just another thing stage, gays as a class must cease to appear mysterious alien, loathsome, and contrary. A large-scale media campaign will be required in order to change the image of homosexuals in America. And any campaign to accomplish this turnaround should do 6 things. Now, this homosexual agenda is going to list 6 things. And if you're paying attention, not only to what I'm saying right now and what I'm reading, but to what's going on around you, you'll see that they have accomplished this agenda. This agenda has been completed. So the first thing is to talk about gays and gayness as loudly and as often as possible. Have we not seen that? The principle behind this advice is simple. Almost any behavior begins to look normal if you are exposed to enough of it at close quarters and among your acquaintances. They're in your public schools. They're in your public libraries. They're in your malls. Is that not being exposed to it enough? Is that not close quarters enough for you? The acceptability of the new behavior will ultimately hinge on the number of one's fellows doing it or accepting it. The whole lot of people accepting it. And now there's a whole lot of people doing it as well. Well, some of them are still doing it on the DL, on the down low, but they're doing it. They've definitely accepted it. See, one may be offended by its novelty at first. Many in times past were momentarily scandalized by streaking, by eating goldfish, and even by premarital sex. But as long as Joe Sixpack, their word for the average American, feels little pressure to perform likewise, and as long as the behavior in question presents little threat to his physical and financial security, he soon gets used to it and life goes on. Isn't that what has happened in America? That because this movement didn't pose a threat to anybody's physical or financial security, it meant nothing to them. They got used to it, and now life goes on for them. Now they're in the public libraries and they're in your public schools, and now people are saying, well, then maybe it's not such a good idea. See, the skeptic may still shake his head and think people are crazy these days, but over time, even his objections are likely to become more reflective, more philosophical, and less emotional. See, the way to benumb raw sensitivities about homosexuality is to have a lot of people talk a great deal about the subject in a neutral or supportive way. Open and frank talks makes the subject seem less furtive, alien, and sinful. Less sinful, more above board. See, words say a lot. The fact that they know that the subject, by doing these talks, the subject will seem less sinful, tells you that they know it's sinful. They know it's wrong. They may be sincere, but I was sincere when I lived in it. I was sincere when I was trapped in it. But I always knew there was something that wasn't quite right. So constant talk builds the impression that public opinion is at least divided on the subject and that a sizable segment accepts or even practices homosexuality. See, if they keep talking about it, if they are the squeaky wheel, they will give the impression that public opinion is divided on the subject. See, public opinion at one point may not have been divided on the subject. Public opinion may not have been that a sizable segment accepts or practices. But because they became the squeaky wheel, the loud wheel, because they became more verbal and more aggressive, and because they started telling people that public opinion was divided on the subject, because they started telling people that a large group accepts or even practices homosexuality, that's what people started to believe. See, even rancorous debates between opponents and defenders serve the purpose of desensitization, so long as respectable gays are front and center to make their own pitch. The main thing is to talk about gayness until the issue becomes thoroughly tiresome. They've pushed this agenda so much. They've pushed this agenda on everyone so much that so many people are just thoroughly tired of hearing about it, of dealing with it, and of even wanting to confront it. And when we say talk about homosexuality, we mean just that. In the early stages of any campaign to reach straight America, the masses should not be shocked and repelled by premature exposure to homosexual behavior itself. Instead, the imagery of sex should be downplayed and gay rights should be reduced to an abstract social question as much as possible. First, let the camel get his nose inside the tent. Only later, his unsightly derriere. They've compared their movement here to quite a cliche. Let the camel get his nose inside the tent. Once his nose is in, it'd be inevitable that his unsightly derriere, that the rest of him comes along. And so basically that is exactly what this says, is that let the LGBT movement get their nose in. And that's what they did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And now their unsightly derriere has come through the tent. See, the average American household watches over 7 hours of television daily, sadly. Those hours open up a gateway into the private world of straights through which a Trojan horse might be passed. Prince of the air, the principalities, right? He's the prince of the air, God of this world, the enemy. So far, gay Hollywood has provided our best covert weapon in the battle to desensitize the mainstream. Of course, Hollywood has been used, of course, because they're all agents of the devil anyway. Bit by bit over the past 10 years, gay characters and gay themes have been introduced into TV programs and films, though often this has been done to achieve comedic and ridiculous effects. On the whole, the impact has been encouraging. See, while public opinion is one primary source of mainstream values, religious authority is the other. When conservative churches condemn gays, there are only two things we can do to confound the homophobia of true believers. Now, there's a statement for you. They can see that true believers will have a fear of this sin. First, we can use talk to muddy the moral waters. Now, see, if you can't see the fact that the enemy is so bold and so brave to put it all out there right in your face, as if to muddy the moral waters. If you believed If you truly believed that what you thought, what you felt, what you were doing, that your homosexual acts were moral and upright, if you truly believe that you were created that way, then you wouldn't have to muddy the moral waters. See, this means publicizing support for gays by more moderate churches, raising theological objections of our own about conservative interpretations of biblical teachings, and exposing hatred and inconsistency. Second, we can undermine the moral authority of homophobic churches by portraying them as antiquated backwaters, badly out of step with the times and with the latest findings of psychology. The gospel and its purpose can never be antiquated, okay? Because God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. The Gospels and its purpose can never be badly out of step with the times, because we're not a part of this. We're not of this world. We're just in it. You see, sadly, the reason that the church cannot reach the world is because the church has become just like the world. And the latest findings of psychology mean nothing. Your thoughts and feelings mean nothing when they go against the factual word of God by the Gospels. And so they go on to say, against the mighty pool of institutional religion, one must set the mightier draw of science and public opinion. The shield and sword of that accursed secular humanism. See, they just, again, bold and in your face. So they say, we're going to go against Christianity, and we're going to use science and public opinion. We're going to use the shield and sword of the accursed secular humanism. And we think that they're all about rainbows and love and glitter and butterflies. Such an unholy alliance has worked well against churches before. They're calling themselves right here an unholy alliance. An unholy alliance has worked well against churches before on such topics as divorce and abortion. Yeah. Two more sins that we have given up on. Two more sins that aren't even seen as sin by a lot of people who claim to love Jesus. With enough open talk about the prevalence and acceptability of homosexuality, that alliance can work again here. Which alliance? The unholy alliance, the LGBT movement. Second thing on this agenda, and I say this agenda because it's been completed, portray gays as victims, not as aggressive challengers. In any campaign to win over the public, gays must be cast as victims in need of protection, so that straights will be inclined by reflex to assume the role of protector. And let me make this one statement and make this clear. We are all heterosexual. All pedophiles are heterosexual. All homosexuals are heterosexual. All liars are heterosexual. All adulterers are heterosexual. All cheaters are heterosexual. And why do I say that? Because we are all heterosexual. It's in our design. It's in our makeup. God designed us that way. We can't change it. Just like our DNA, we can't change our gender. It's determined by our DNA. We can't change it. It's part of our design. It's part of our makeup. We can scream louder than it. We can drown it out. We can grasp onto a sin like homosexuality and engage in that sin, but it doesn't change our heterosexual design as we were created to be. Goes on to say, if gays are presented instead as a strong and prideful tribe promoting a rigidly nonconformist and deviant lifestyle, they are more likely to be seen as a public menace that justifies resistance and oppression. For that reason, because here I am. This is what they're saying. This is the LGBT movement saying, because we're a strong and prideful tribe and we promote nonconformist and deviant lifestyles, we're going to be seen as a public menace. So for that reason, we must forego the temptation to strut our gay pride publicly when it conflicts with the gay victim image. So they're saying, for now, just don't parade it around. And we can look back at the earlier homosexual pride parades and marches. There was none of this deviancy. There was none of this half-naked, ignorant, public, prideful display. Originally, there was none of what we see today. But because they've already accomplished their agenda, we see it in full force today. So it goes on to say, and we must walk the fine line between impressing straights with our great numbers on the one hand and sparking their hostile paranoia, they are all around us, on the other. That's why the protesters that are the most effective bus people in from outside of the area and pay people to be there, because they know that if people see a crowd, they'll believe that that crowd represents the majority, and they'll feel like they're outnumbered, and they'll feel like they're all around us. So these are just methods. A media campaign to promote the gay victim image should make use of symbols which reduce the mainstream's sense of threat, which lower its guard, and which enhance the plausibility of victimization. So they're saying we have to make sure that we're not associated with anyone that people aren't going to accept and that people are going to see as a threat. So we have to disassociate ourselves with them for now. It almost goes without saying that groups on the farthest margin of acceptability, such as NAMBLA, the North Atlantic Man-Boy Love Association, North American Man-Boy Love Association, must play no part at all in our campaign. Okay, why? Because pedophiles will never look like victims. So what they just said in that passage was, look, we got to disassociate with the groups that are open and pridefully telling what we're all doing. So the North American Man-Boy Love Association, we got to disassociate with you for now. But as we see now in 2019, marching in the parade with them is MAPS, Minor Attracted Persons. Go figure. Now there are two different messages about the gay victim that are worth communicating. The first message is that the mainstream should be told that gays are victims of fate. They should be told that gays are victims of fate, in the sense that most never had a choice to accept or reject their sexual preference. See, we know this is a lie because thousands upon thousands have come out and are coming out of that movement and are rejecting the lusts of their flesh. See, the message must read, as far as gays can tell, they were born gay, just as you were born heterosexual. See, the thing is yeah, I was born gay. I was born homosexual. Let me restate that. Okay, I was born homosexual. Jesus said that I had to be born again, and so I was. I was created heterosexual. I wasn't created homosexual, but I was born into sin, and I was shaped in iniquity. So I was born a homosexual. I was born a liar. I was born deceitful, but I was created heterosexual. I was created white. Okay. And so we see here where they try to mix the words, as you were born heterosexual or white or black or bright or athletic. Nobody is created bright or athletic or homosexual or a liar, but people are created heterosexual by design, and they are created white or black or Asian or Spanish. That's their creation. See, they're trying to mix truth with untruths that are telling us, guess what? Now I can claim that I was born stupid. Well, yeah, Jesus said be born again. Nobody ever tricked or seduced them, which we know is a lie. So why would they have to convince America that nobody ever tricked or seduced them, that they weren't recruited into that movement, that they never had to make a choice, and that they're not morally blameworthy? Why would they have to convince you of that if that was the fact? See, what they do isn't willfully contrary. It's only natural for them. That's what they want us to believe. But see, I thought it was only natural for me too, until Jesus reached into the sewers of this world and yanked me out. This twist of fate could as easily have happened to you. That's what they want everyone to believe. So now we have all this confusion and people feeding off the lust of their flesh. Straight viewers must be able to identify with gays as victims. Mr. and Mrs. Public must be given no extra excuses to say they are not like us. In any campaign, see, they keep calling it a campaign because it's their agenda. To win over the public, gays must be cast as victims in need of protection, so that straights will be inclined by reflex to assume the role of protector. And that, beloved, is where we're going to stop this. But that is exactly where they want us to be at. You see, back in the 70s, when the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, when they changed their board, and their board became, majority of the board were homosexuals, that's when they changed the definition of a homosexual in the APA book from a lost my train of thought. But they changed it from a mental disorder to sexual orientation. So when they started infiltrating all of the different aspects of society, and we're going to continue on with this agenda tomorrow. We're going to pick up at number 3 or 4, wherever we left off. And we're going to look at it and because I want everybody to see that this agenda has been completed, that it's done, it's complete. See, they've already went through the moral or the unprideful marching and trying to look like victims and just begging for mercy from everyone around them, from the public. And now that they've already accomplished that, now they're marching down your streets naked with rainbow body paint on. They're going into your libraries. They're going into your public schools, and they're teaching your children and your grandchildren that if they haven't tried homosexual activity, that they need to before they can decide that they're not. Lord willing, I'll see you all in the morning. Peace. I love you all. Thanks for joining us.